Thank you to Mel Soap Lounge for sponsoring this episode. Hello and welcome to the Mama Doula and More podcast with Callie and Mel about life, love, and the Black family unit. Today's episode is about the business of birth control.
Hey, it's Callie from the Mama Doula More podcast. I'm here with
Mel.
And we are about to tackle a very controversial topic about birth control. Over the weekend, myself and other fellow birth workers in the community had a chance to listen to the business of birth control. And oh my goodness, if you have not listened to this, if you have not saw this documentary, I suggest that you go do so as soon as possible. The documentary was directed by Abby Epstein, and the genre of what this documentary speaks about is women's studies, health and wellness, social issues as well. Okay, so we're about to unpack this. Sit back, get ready.
Today's episode is sponsored by Mel Soap Lounge. Mel Soap Lounge makes high quality, glycerin-based, handcrafted soaps and sugar scrubs. So use code DOULA for 10% off any $40 order or more. So go to melsoaplounge.bigcartel.com and use code DOULA for 10% off any $40 order or more. So that's MELSSOAP lounge.bigcartel.com and use code DOULA for 10% off any $40 order or more. And thank you to Mel Soap Lounge for being our sponsor.
So, online here at thevideolibrarian.com, they speak about the documentary. And it says, since the advent of the pill in 1960, birth control has been a controversial and often taboo subject. As this documentary points out, many conservatives are staunch opposers to birth control, while progressives often defend it to their last breath. This tug-of-war battle doesn't leave much room for constructive criticism. The business of birth control, however, disregards the contentious nature of the subject and openly criticizes pharmaceutical companies and physicians that abet several hidden dangers of contraceptives. This film, directed by Abby Epstein, shares the well-rounded perspective of professors, historians, doctors, researchers, and even women interviewed on the streets of various countries and cities. It also presents clips of old court hearings and protests to help orient viewers to a particular time and issue. So there's where I will stop, and I will give my feedback about the documentary that I saw. So the documentary, in my opinion, was very good. This documentary kind of, to me, piggybacks off of the documentary of The Business of Being Born. So, I'll speak about the Nuvaring first. The Nuvaring, in 2014, they had to settle some claims. And that was a bit much, right? Because the Nuvaring, they tell you, oh, the Nuvaring, you should get it. Only thing you have to do is insert it. You insert it for these amount of weeks, and then you take it out, and then you'll have what they kind of describe as a period for a week, and then you place it back, right? Well, Merck and company agreed in 2014 to settle all claims over its hormone-infused Nuvaring birth control implant. Plaintiffs in nearly 2,000 lawsuits allege serious injuries and deaths from blood clots, heart attacks, and strokes. I'm going to talk about the Nuvaring litigation timeline here for a little bit. According to this Nuvaring litigation timeline, August 2008, the first 11 of 1,983 eventual lawsuits were combined in a federal multi-district litigation. In March of 2009, the total of 215 state lawsuits were consolidated into a multi-county litigation in New Jersey. February 2014, Merck agreed to a $100 million settlement to resolve all remaining lawsuits and claims not yet filed. So To me, that right there states that they feel guilty about something. June 2014, the settlement was finalized. July 2014, the time period for claimants to opt in to the settlement ended. And as of April 2019, the U.S. Judicial Panel of Multi-District Litigation reports 89 cases were still pending. That says a lot to me. The lawsuits point to blood clots, heart attacks, strokes, and deaths. To me, that's something that, that's really peculiar, because these are things that your providers are telling you to take as a contraceptive, not to get pregnant. But they don't tell you that if you take this, you won't get pregnant, but you'll probably die. If you don't take this, you won't get pregnant, but you'll probably get some blood clots. If you don't take this, you won't get pregnant, but you can have a heart attack or a stroke. So to me, that says a lot about the business that they're in, and it says a lot about how they represent things, these pharmaceutical companies and these providers. And I'm just kind of confused as to what gives them the right to do this and not let you make an informed decision about your life and how this impacts you. They'll give you this birth control, and then you have this big old sheet of paper, as you can see inside of this documentary, and you have to literally read through every single piece to find the red flags, which are the blood clots, the heart attacks, the strokes, and death. Ridiculous. This should not be happening. It should not be happening to anyone at any given time for any purpose. That is the business of birth control. That is just a little piece of it, guys. I haven't even gotten to the birth control pill, and I haven't gotten to the birth control shot. This is so ridiculous that today, in 2022, we still have to have this conversation about birth control and what it does for you and what it can do to you. They have to do better. I'll give you one even better. Let's start talking about the world-class athlete Megan Henry, who started using Nuvaring birth control 10 days before she found herself gasping for air on the side of a mountain in 2012. At that time, she didn't know the Nuvaring had caused her to develop dangerous blood clots. She later joined others who sued Nuvaring's maker Merck & Co., alleging the device caused life-threatening injuries. This is a world-class athlete. This is when it starts to make noise for people. This is when people start to pay attention. It has to be someone that is very, very important for the community, the birth community, to actually say, maybe the things that we've been hearing all of this time was right, but now because this famous person said so, now we can go with it. I don't understand that. Mel, I know that you watched the documentary as well. What is your take on the documentary?
My take on the documentary is I took some notes. One note that I saw at the beginning that I really liked, I was like, oh, is this serious? 12 million women in the U.S. alone use birth control.
12 million women.
Yes, 12 million.
12 million women use birth control. Are they using birth control because they don't want to have children? Are they using birth control because they want to have their careers? Are they using birth control because they're in school and they feel like they can do whatever they want to do and then come back later on to, have a baby, get off the birth control? What is the purpose of them using a birth control?
So, what do you feel like is the purpose of them trying to use birth control?
I don't know what the purpose is. I don't want to assume either. I think that probably when they go in to see their providers, the providers work with the pharmaceutical companies, and they, often tell them, you go see your provider and you say, well, hey, I don't want to have any children right now, or hey, I have, these bad period cramps. And that's the first thing that the providers do. They ask you, they say, so hey, how are you feeling? And then you tell them how you're feeling, and then you say,
Like someone like me, like I have terrible period cramps, and I've always had them since I was a little girl when I got my period. And they put me on birth control way back when because they said that it would help my cramps. That's not true. You know what's crazy? I have an aunt who had really, really serious cramp issues as well, just like me. And she has shared her story with me too, saying that when she was younger, because of her cramps that she had, she wasn't even sexually active yet. She went to the doctor, and the doctor put her on birth control, telling her that it would lessen her cramps. And guess what? It did not. So I don't even know what the point is of being on birth control, besides not wanting to have a baby. But the documentary started speaking about how they touched on a lot of things in the documentary. It touched on back in the 60s and the 70s. That was even before my time, so I don't know. But based on the documentary, it kind of makes a lot of sense that people would want to, take control of their bodies. They spoke about the feminist movement and how the feminist movement is a part of how come birth control is as valid as it is today. I can't give you a reason as to why, other than this is a hand-in-hand situation where you go to your provider, you tell your provider the list of things that are bothering you, and your provider says, okay, no problem, so here's what I'm going to do for you. They say that it's preventative care, but it's not preventative care, because them giving you these birth control pills, this birth control shot, this birth control Nuvaring that was supposed to be the safest. It's so crazy that we're talking about this, because my provider had told me a long time ago that I could take Nuvaring, and I said no. But they give you all these different things to prevent one situation from happening, and then you're on the other side of that situation, which is even worse than if you did have a baby. I'm so confused.
Why did you stop birth control?
Well, it's a really crazy story. So I was put on birth control. I was on birth control pills before, and I did not like the way that they made me feel. And that was after having my first daughter. I was on birth control pills. And then after having my second daughter, they put me on the birth control shot. Here's the crazy thing, guys. You want to hear something? Before you leave the hospital, the provider, and I'm talking some 21 years ago, I'm talking some 25 years ago, even up until 6 years ago when I had my last baby. Before you leave the hospital, as soon as that baby comes out, the provider says to you, so, Mom, what are we doing for birth control? You don't even get a chance to leave the hospital, so they're trying to get you even before you go out the door. But I stopped using birth control because I was on the Depo-Provera shot that they gave me right in the hospital right after I had my 21-year-old. And when they gave it to me, I didn't have a period. Like, the period was gone for a while. And I knew that I was breastfeeding her, so I knew that the period, would serve its purpose. Like, it would be gone for a little bit, but it was gone for a while. So after being on the Depo shot for almost a year, when it was time for me to get it again, I told him, I said, no, I don't want this. And then that was it for me. There was no more birth control for me. I didn't like the way that it made me feel. I didn't like the fact that my period was gone for so long. That's not healthy. It was just certain things that my body was supposed to do, it wasn't able to do. And that became very problematic for me. And not only that, being so much younger, I was very, very in tune with my body. So when I started to feel different and not liking the way that I felt, not liking the mood swings, not liking the way that my body was feeling, I was like, oh, no, we got to get this out immediately. And luckily for me, I didn't have any blood clotting issues. I didn't have any stroke, seizures, any of those things, heart attacks. But I was one of the lucky ones, right? So I came off of it and I never looked back. Even after having 6 babies and 4 more after I had been on the Depo, when they asked me as a grown woman, I felt empowered. I said, no, I'm not taking any birth control. And they asked me again before I left the hospital, and I told them no. When I went back for my 6-week checkup, they asked me again, and I said, no, absolutely not. I'm not taking any birth control. And I think as the providers, I think that they are very, they get kind of upset with you when you stand your ground, letting them know, like, hey, I know what's going on. I'm not doing this. And I told them no, just like that. I'm not giving you a reason as to why I'm not putting something in my body that I don't want in my body because you say that it's okay. No, my no is my no. So I stopped. I didn't like the way it felt. I didn't want no one to have that much control of my body. And I am not regretful of not getting the birth control. How about that? Because after I stopped taking the depot, I felt so much more like myself. There was no need. And I was able to plan my babies, have my babies with no issues, no lingering side effects or anything like that. So, yeah, that's why I decided to come off of the birth control. I know that was a long-winded answer, but it was my answer. Now we can talk about Yaz, because Yaz has some lawsuits as well. So, Yaz lawsuits, women who suffered side effects after taking Yaz have filed thousands of lawsuits against Bayer AG. More than 19,000 lawsuits have been resolved so far, according to court records. Lawsuits allege the pills cause blood clots, gallbladder problems, heart attacks, and strokes. Federal multi-district litigation closed in January 2019. So here we go again with the lawsuits and what they do. This is unbelievable.
Now, I feel like you might be thinking, oh, they filed a lawsuit because they wanted birth control, something happened. No. Back in the documentary, they talk about how, right in the box, there wasn't anything saying that there was a chance you would have a blood clot, there was a chance you would have a heart attack, none of that. It just said there was a chance. It didn't even have a chance. It was like, when it was promoted, Yaz was a super drug. It would help you with anxiety, depression, your eczema, your acne. Plus, you might not even have a baby. It was like Superman for women. When it wasn't, it was more like Lex Luthor. It wasn't good. It wasn't good for women at all. Now,
the drugs, severe side effects. You hear this severe side effect. You have this side effect, right? The FDA says the following problems have been linked to using the drugs: heart arrhythmias, electric light imbalance, stroke, gallbladder problems, blood clots, embolisms, and sudden death. That to me, if you told me, so hey, Callie, I'm going to give you this birth control, but here is the list of the top 7 things that could happen to you, but you're not going to be able to have no baby though. But these are things that could happen to you. I'd have been like, oh no, you can keep that. I'll take my chances, okay, of having a baby as opposed to this. But here's the crazy thing, guys. So the lawsuit alleges the following claims, and it's so funny that Mel just spoke about what the documentary said, because the lawsuit alleged the following claims against Bayer. Bayer is the company that made it. Bayer, okay? I'll just leave that there because you know that Bayer is responsible for a lot of other drugs, okay? So they allege negligence, strict product liability, breach of express and implied warranties, fraudulent and negligent misrepresentation, fraudulent concealment, medical monitoring, fraud and deceit, and violation of consumer protection statutes. That is something really deep, guys. And if nothing is making you think about this, these things should. So I'm going to tell you about 2 stories about 2 women about the lawsuit. So I got this information from drugwatch.com /Yaz/lawsuits. Maggie Yunker of Illinois. Maggie Yunker suffered a life-threatening stroke at the age of 20 after switching to Yaz from a different birth control pill, according to her lawsuit. Yunker had been taking birth control pills for about a year when her doctor suggested that she switch. Okay? Promised that Yaz would clear up her acne and relieve period symptoms, Junker began taking the new birth control pill that later developed multiple blood clots that broke free and traveled to her brain. Once in her brain, the clots cut off blood flow and caused a stroke. According to her lawsuit, Bayer settled Junker's claim for $237,000. In 2013, Junker told the Chicago Tribune, I didn't think anything bad could happen, especially since a doctor was giving it to me. Any medicine has risk factors, but when you're a 20-year-old, you don't think about that. Roughly 20,000 women were injured or died from taking Yaz, resulting in lawsuits similar to Junker's. So a blood clot in the brain cuts off the brain blood. It cuts off the brain's blood supply and it causes a stroke. Let's talk about someone else. Here's another woman. Her name is Carissa Ubersocks, and she was from Wisconsin. She's from Wisconsin. In 2007, Carissa Ubersocks was 24 and a new college graduate. She had just started working in her new role as a pediatric nurse when her boyfriend surprised her with a marriage proposal on Christmas Day. Ubersocks wanted to look and feel her best for her wedding day, so she switched her birth control to Yaz. A commercial made it sound like a miracle drug, she later told ABC. But in February of 2008, just 3 months after she began taking Yaz, Ubersocks said her legs began to ache, which she shrugged off as a side effect of standing on her feet for 12 hours of a nursing shift. But soon, Ubersocks found herself gasping for air. Blood clots in her lungs had traveled through her bloodstream blood clots in her legs had traveled through her bloodstream to her lungs, resulting in a double pulmonary embolism that nearly took her life. Her fiancé called 911, and on her way to the hospital, her heart stopped. Revived by emergency doctors, she remained in a coma for almost 2 weeks. When Ubersocks awoke, she was blind. Ubersocks sued Bayer after losing her eyesight. Her career and her fiancé, as reported by NBC, alleging Yaz was to blame. Isn't that something? These are lawsuits that women are starting to really see that these birth controls are not for them. It is the business. I'm going to keep saying that. It is the business of birth control, right? You know what business means, guys. I don't have to spell it out for you. Business, the money. Why are we doing this to ourselves? I'm just curious to know.
I feel like the reason why people are doing it to themselves, if you go into the documentary and watch it, they have a really disturbing history lesson. Back in the 60s and 70s, they were testing out birth control, right? And they wanted to do it in America. America said no because they were going to do something. They already had something bigger on their plate, which was the missile crisis. Instead, they went to Cuba and tested the birth control out on many women. And when they tested it out, 5 of those women died. One of those 5 women died of suicide. And then they still, after seeing that they didn't connect the dots and say, maybe we don't need this. Instead, they said, yes, this was a good study, sent it over to America, and now everybody wants birth control. But the thing was, it wasn't women wanting birth control. It was a bunch of men saying that women needed birth control. Because inside of one of the court hearings, they were talking about, I think the men were like, I think birth control would be good for a woman because I feel like she could limit how many times she's able to have babies. And one of the courageous women in the background said, you are talking about our issue and you do not have any woman up there either opposing or agreeing with you. And they didn't let any other woman up there. They actually got kicked out. That's the sad part.
Well, here's the thing. With every, I'm getting ready to digress. With every situation pertaining to a woman's body, it is always a man who does not have a vagina, who does not have a vulva, who does not have a uterus, who does not have a cervix, who does not have any of the things to be able to make that decision for us. That's number one. Okay? Number two, they need to go sit down somewhere because we are not up there shouting and telling them what they should do with their testicles. How about that? Or their penis. These are conversations that people don't want to have. But I don't mind having these candid conversations because it's real. Okay? When it comes to a woman's body, a woman should be able to say, hey, this is my body. I don't want this in my body because it could kill me. Give me the option. Don't hide it. Don't be facetious. Give me the clear option as to what I want to do. Okay? Informed consent. Informed decisions. That's what we do every day as doulas. So why can't these providers have the same respect for their patients who they're supposed to care about and have them do the same thing? Pharmaceutical providers. That is always going to be how it is. I don't care what the situation is. You have the pharmacies, the pharmaceutical company pushing the drugs on you, and you have the doctors pushing the drugs on you too. So it's a no-brainer. It's a no-win. But I will talk about the Depo-Provera shots, okay? And this one here, I got this from a news article. It says WTXL.com news / Toledo mother claims birth control injection killed her daughter. I'll read it really quickly because there's no video on it, okay? So it says, Toledo mother claims birth control injection killed her daughter. This was July 27th, 2017, and it was updated. That was the last time it was updated. So it says Toledo, Ohio, WTOL. A Toledo mother claims her daughter died from Depo-Provera, a birth control injection prescribed by her doctor. Rochelle Russell says she lives every day with the pain of watching her 21-year-old daughter Brianna die with no idea what was happening to her. I should have possibly researched it more, Russell said. However, she also claims doctors and clinics never laid out the potential serious side effects. Russell says her daughter died from severe cranial pressure and brain bleeds, something she says was caused by the Depo-Provera shot. A shot given every 3 months for birth control. She started Depo-Provera at the age of 14, and she took it consistently until she was 19. The FDA warning for Depo-Provera states it should not be taken for more than 2 years, but Rochelle says her doctor, here we go, Rochelle says her doctors continue to prescribe the injection for 5 years with no warning given of side effects other than weight gain. Brianna started having severe headaches after starting the shots. One night she had one that was very severe. She was mumbling something, Russell recalled. I just thought she was sick. I had a virus. I took her to the ER and told her to go to sleep. Baby's dad got home and saw her and said to call 911. A list of side effects of the FDA website include blood clots, strokes, and seizures. Russell joined a class action lawsuit with other parents who claimed Depo-Provera resulted in serious health problems or death. She says the parents of every woman need to look more closely at the side effects of any birth control. You need to do your own research behind any drug your doctor prescribes you. Let me read that again. You need to do your own research behind any drug your provider, your doctor prescribes you. Let me read that one more time. You need to do your own research behind any drug your doctor prescribes you, Russell warned. You must do your own research.
Now, something that I feel like with the legal side of it, why they win a bunch of those, lawsuits is because they say, oh, you should have known because it was in the commercial. And then somebody go watch the commercial, and the little words at the bottom of the commercial are literally giving you the side effects. Now, I cannot see hardly. How do you think a normal person could see those small words in a 30-second ad break? I don't even think the best person who could see that. It's like little words saying these side effects could have suicide, sadness, depression, blood clot, heart attack, and I don't understand why the FDA has it as death is a side effect. Why is death? How is death a side effect? Like what was going through the person's brain? And also, they do not tell the truth about birth control. Birth control does not stop you from having a baby. It shuts down the woman's reproductive organs. It shuts down ovulation. It stops it. It doesn't do anything except for stop it. That's why women feel weird, because their body's not working as it's supposed to.
Go ahead, son.
And one last thing. I knew this for a while, but doctors, they do this with every single drug or for anything that you need. Example, birth control. You go in saying, oh, I think my period cramps. Birth control. Another example that doesn't have to do with birth. You go in, you say, they see that you have vitiligo. Guess what they give you? Bleaching cream. They give you everything because they think it's from pharmaceutical companies referring it to you, saying you need this, you need that, you need that drug, you need this drug. That's how people get hooked on drugs that they don't even need, like painkillers after they get a surgery. And also something that kind of made me like disturbed. I heard that they gave you birth control, right? Mm-hmm. When you were a teen, right?
Yes.
And inside of the documentary, she was, I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to leave it there. She was 14 years old, and they gave her birth control. One of the women in the documentary been on birth control since she was 14. Imagine giving a child a drug that's supposed to stop their reproductive organs. As a child, we're not even done developing yet. Why would you do that? Why? And nobody knows and nobody cares. The doctors don't care. The pharmaceuticals don't care. Nobody cares until it's too late.
Nobody cares until it's them. That's what it is. So, after seeing this documentary, I promise you that it made me do some research. It made me have some serious conversations with my clients and my children. Okay? This is too much. The business of it all is too much for me. These pharmaceutical companies that is pushing these drugs on people, too much for me. The providers that are standing by idly letting this happen, too much for me. Because we don't get to sue the providers. That's the crazy thing. And some of these pharmaceutical companies, now they have a clause where you can't even sue them. Because if they just put it a little enough, the FDA will go ahead and check off the box for them. Did you know that? This is a lot to unpack. This is very serious. It has to be known that it has to be known that this is something that is not necessarily needed. You got to do your research. I just want to touch on this last thing about the Depo-Provera patients who have already come forward with their claims against Pfizer, because Pfizer is a part of Depo-Provera. They're the maker of it. Here in this impact law, where it says dangerous drugs, it says many Depo-Provera patients have already come forward and filed claims against Pfizer These product liability lawsuits allege that the company was aware of the inherent risk of their products, but failed to adequately warn patients and healthcare providers. I think the healthcare providers knew. I don't know. Additionally, some lawsuits claim that Pfizer failed to adequately test the medication before marketing the drug to the public. Recently, a majority of claims against Pfizer in the Depo-Provera lawsuit were consolidated under the multi-district litigation. So what that does is that if you consolidate everyone together, that's a less of a payout that Pfizer would have to give, okay? In this type of action, similar case types are consolidated before a single judge and in effect to expedite a pretrial process, such as evidence discovery, eliminate any inconsistencies in rulings. Each individual claimant can retain their own legal counsel and their case will be tried separately. Any settlement offer or jury awards will be based on the injuries to each claimant sustained rather than a portion of the large amount that is common in class action lawsuits. Contact impact, okay? That's what it is. So I'm going to do one even better. I'm going to say contact impact law. If you have been diagnosed with the Pseudopseudo cerebri after taking Depo-Provera, you may have a claim against Pfizer. Okay? These attorneys are willing to work with you. That to me says a lot. Everybody could say, oh, ambulance chasers, things like that. No, absolutely not. Let me tell you what a Tumor cerebri is. It's also commonly referred to as idiopathic intracranial hypertension or benign intracranial hypertension. It's a condition that is defined to increase the intracranial pressure and symptoms mimicking those of a brain tumor, even though there is no tumor present. This condition can occur in patients of any age, but is most commonly seen in women of childbearing age who are overweight. Increased intracranial pressure can cause swelling of the optic nerve, resulting in vision problems or loss. Other signs and symptoms of pseudo tumor cerebri may include moderate severe headaches, migraines, neck, shoulder, and back pain, nausea, dizziness, disorientation, short-term memory loss, light sensitivity, loss of sensation of hands, ringing in the ears, loss of peripheral vision, double vision, or blur vision. These are some real serious things, guys. So the next time that you decide that you want to consider taking a birth control, do your research.
Now, Margaret Sanger. If you don't know who Margaret Sanger is, Margaret Sanger was one of the women who helped create, it was the leading factors in birth control. She also helped create the abortion. Now, they were explaining what she did, right? And if you know just a little bit about her history, she was a known racist. She said the worst sin in life was giving birth to a child and putting that in the world. And putting a child into disease, crime, hate. She also said the ending result of a abortion was to eliminate the Negro population. So just think about that when you think about Margaret Sanger, how great of a woman she was. She wanted to kill black boy babies because they were black. She was a known racist, and everybody loved her today. Anything you have to put in?
Don't say that. Don't say everybody.
A lot of women.
I ain't everybody. I promise you.
A lot of women admire Margaret Sanger. You have anything to put in before we end it here, Mommy?
Yeah, let me put a pin in this. I don't like Margaret Sanger, okay? I know what she did, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not to nobody horn that, try to eliminate us. That I don't do. That I'm never going to do, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This episode, we really needed to talk about this whole birth control situation. It shouldn't be that we get to talk about it when someone else that doesn't look like us bring it to our attention, I think that we've been out here yelling and screaming about the birth control in our community. I know someone who was on birth control, and she said that she was having suicidal ideations, and that was one of the side effects to it. And nobody believed her. I believed her to an extent, but I couldn't understand why no one believed her, but I believed her. It took a while, but I did believe her because this was not her normal behavior. I was around her for a while. I knew how she acted. So when she started to say, hey, I'm not feeling so right, this doesn't feel right, all her providers were like, no, it's in your head. She's a black woman, so of course it would be all in her head. And this went on for a while, for like a year. And when she finally came off of that birth control, she was back to herself. So I don't know what it is that they put in it. I don't know what kind of, I don't know. But I do know this. I do know that it affects our community just as well as it affects other communities. And the crazy thing is that everyone is so afraid to talk about it, and I don't know why. So that's what you get here at the Mama Doula and More podcast. You get the uncut, raw version of everything, okay? Anyway, guys, that's a wrap for us. We're going to wrap this up real quick. And thanks for, coming out, listening to us. Callie, you can find me on all my social media platforms. Divine Peace Doulas on Facebook. Was Callie, Kali, on Instagram. You can find me over here on my podcast. I'm on different streams with the podcast. And this has been your neighborhood, your friendly neighborhood doula, Callie, with Divine Peace Doulas and
the CEO of Mel Soap Lounge at Mel Soap Lounge on Instagram.
All right, guys. It's been real. Talk to you later.